What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another segment of the Neighborhood Podcast. I'm half of the podcast, Kevin Valentin.
And on the other half of the podcast, my name is Kyle Dabro. Kevin, what an NBA Finals, man. What an NBA Finals.
It's been completed. Giannis Antetokounmpo is now an NBA champion. Ladies and gentlemen, I am wearing the jersey out of pure respect. I am not a Bucks fan. I am not saying that I chose the Bucks to win, but I figured it was only right for me to wear the jersey on tonight's occasion. Giannis Antetokounmpo had a finals game for the history books. He had 50 points, close out the Phoenix Suns in game six. And man, was it an incredible game going back and forth for pretty much the integrity of the entire game. So, Kyle, man, what's the agenda for today, bro?
I mean, it's going to be fairly quick. It's mostly going to just revolve around the NBA Finals. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Bucks winning Game 6. They're your 2021 NBA Finals champions. And we're going to talk about Giannis. Giannis dropped a 50-point masterpiece tonight. He won NBA Finals MVP like it was a shock to anybody. So obviously we'll dive into Game 6. We'll talk about how historic this is for the Bucks. Since this is their first NBA championship since the early 70s. We're talking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robertson. You have to go back that far to when Milwaukee won their last NBA championship. They do it in 2021 behind Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, and a litany of other players. So we'll definitely dive into that. Obviously, when there's a winner on one side, there's a loser on the other side. And unfortunately for the Phoenix Suns, after being up 2-0 in the series, they lost 4 consecutive games to Milwaukee. So we'll talk about Phoenix. We'll talk about where the Suns went wrong after taking that 2-0 series lead. And since Giannis did win Finals MVP, he was clearly by far and away the best player on the court throughout the entirety of the series. We're going to talk about the impact that this Finals win leaves on his legacy. He's 26 years old. He claimed his first championship, and we'll dive into the impact that this brings to his career towards the later end of the live stream. But Kev, I just want to get your initial reaction to Game 6 of the NBA Finals.
I mean, honestly, it was a classic. I can't say much. I mean, early on in the game, it looked like Milwaukee was kind of pulling away. It looked like Phoenix really couldn't get much going, and then Phoenix kind of cut that lead down sizably, and we went into halftime relatively close. The third quarter started, and obviously, both teams came out firing, and Giannis ended up going completely off, scoring 20 points in the third quarter alone. Unfortunately, the supporting cast at the time seemed to be lackluster, not really much support, but Giannis kind of literally put the team on his back this entire game. Like Kyle said, we're talking 50 points in an NBA Finals closeout game. Only one other person has scored that same amount, and that was Bob Pettit in 1958. That's insane. Like, to put that into perspective, in a closeout game, he scored more than Michael Jordan has in a finals game. Like, I mean, that says it in itself. He's also the first NBA player, I believe, to have 50 points, 15 rebounds, 50 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 blocks in an NBA Finals game. Like, we're talking 2K numbers here. And Giannis did it with little to no help overall on the Bucks side. And I mean, if we're looking at it as an overall perspective of a game, it was a classic for sure. It was entertaining. It's very, 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 very unfortunate that Phoenix literally went cold for the majority of that later half of the fourth. I mean, they just could not get into a rhythm, turning the ball over, stupidity on the fouls portion, lackluster defense. I mean, you name it, Phoenix kind of just fell apart in that fourth quarter. But at the same time, they kept themselves in it with their occasional twos, some free throws. But overall, man, super, super, super happy for the Bucks. Again, I did not choose the Bucks to win. I believe Kyle and I owed them an apology. We kind of had Phoenix winning this without a doubt. Even if Giannis was there, we did not expect the health of Giannis Antetokounmpo to be at this level. And, they hoisted up the trophy, rightfully so. And PJ Tucker is an NBA champion.
It's wild. Not only is he known for the shoes and apparently fouling everybody in sight on the court, but now he could claim that he's an NBA champion as well. So you got to give him a little tip to the cap to PJ for that. To talk about the game, though, Milwaukee got off to a fantastic start. They won the first quarter 29-16. Phoenix just could not get into any sort of offensive rhythm in the first half. And then you saw Milwaukee kind of take a step back in the second quarter. They really struggled as a team in the second quarter. They only scored 13 points, and you saw Phoenix take advantage of that. They went into halftime up. This was despite the fact that they were down 16 points at one point in the first quarter. So you have to give Phoenix some credit for showing some resiliency early in the first half of the game. And then the second half happened, and just Giannis just dominated the game. I mean, if I remember correctly, didn't he score 20 points again in the third quarter? This is not the first time that it's happened in this series. So,
yeah, I think it was game 2 or 3.
Because at halftime, I believe he was somewhere around like 17, maybe 20 points. And then he has a phenomenal third quarter, and then he follows it up with the fourth quarter, knocking down some critical shots for Milwaukee. Not only was he knocking down shots, but Kev, he was knocking down his free throws tonight. He was amazing from the free throw line tonight. 17 of 19. Throughout the entirety of the series, he was maybe somewhere around like 55, maybe 60% from the free throw line. And then in this game, in the most pivotal game for the series for Milwaukee, 17 and 19 from the free throw line, that's outstanding. 50 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks, like you mentioned. It's one of the best closeout performances I've ever seen in an NBA Finals game. I've seen it from LeBron. I've seen it from Kobe. I've seen it from Kevin Durant. I can honestly say at this point, this is the best closeout performance I've ever seen in an NBA Finals game in my lifetime. Just from what I've seen, like I know like Michael Jordan was alive when I was born, like I was maybe like 2 or 3, but I don't really remember anything when Jordan was in the league at that time. But with my own eyes, in real time, this is the best closeout finals performance I've ever seen. So I have to give Giannis a lot of credit for that. To put up 50 points in the most crucial game of the series, you gotta clap it up for Giannis. I mean, it's like you mentioned though, not a lot of help from his counterparts tonight, outside of maybe Bobby Portis and maybe Chris Middleton. Bobby Portis was huge for Milwaukee coming off the bench though. 16 points. He knocked down a couple 3-point shots, and I thought for the most part he shot particularly well. He was 6 of 10 from the field. So if you're getting 60% shooting from Bobby Portis, it's a good nod to Portis for playing well. Chris Middleton, 6 of 13, really wasn't that big of a focal point in the offense tonight. And to talk about Drew Holiday, look, Drew Holiday had a fantastic Game 5. I mentioned a couple days ago that might have been an anomaly from Drew just because he had shown some inconsistency throughout the series in his offensive game. And that kind of did show again tonight. He was only 4 and 19 from the field, and he just could not get into any sort of rhythm whatsoever. But the star of the show is Giannis. Giannis was clearly the favorite to win the NBA Finals MVP. It is well-deserved. And listen, I'm just thrilled for Milwaukee. Kev, there were 65,000 people outside of that arena tonight. The fact that the whole town not only, wins an NBA championship, but now they could just party their asses off the entire night. I imagine Milwaukee's not going to be sleeping tonight. And, you have to give a lot of credit to the players. They earned this, and the coaching staff as well. I know we always focus on the players here, but Mike Budenholzer and the coaching staff, you got to give them a lot of credit. They put these guys in situations where they were able to excel and succeed. And to come back from 2-0, looked like Phoenix was going to be kind of the runaway favorite after being up 2-0 in the series. But Milwaukee shows resilience. They bounce back in a huge way, and they win 4 consecutive games to close out a series. And Giannis is dropping 50 points at the end of the series. Respect. I got to give a tip to the cap for that.
I mean, dude, I said it on Sunday night. He smelled blood in the water. He came out aggressive. He came out hot, and he took over as the best players in this league do. He did what he needed to do. Mm-hmm. He saw that his team wasn't able to assist. He saw that they weren't able to perform, at least to the measure in which he needed for backup, and he took over. He said, "Give me the ball, coach. I got it." And I mean, you want to talk about an anomaly. We're talking about like a career 50% free throw shooter goes 17 of 19. Is if that's not like God sent, I don't know what is. Because the guy was literally what the other night he was 4 of 11 from the free throw line.
Yeah, he
You're
really
telling me
struggled.
he's like I don't even know. Like those are like Devin Booker free throw numbers. Those are Chris Paul free throw numbers, like Chris Middleton free throw numbers. And Giannis went out there and said, "I'm on here. I got to make it count." Imagine he hits less than half. Imagine he hits half of those, like 7 or 8. Like they probably lose this game,
Yeah,
honestly. And if you really think about it like that, it's kind of incredible because he didn't just do it on the offensive end. Like I said earlier, he had 5 blocks. That's huge. I mean, he had 6 turnovers as well, and then Middleton had 5. So between the two of them, that's just 11 turnovers, which is absolutely insane. But I mean, you can't take away the incredible defensive pressure that the uh, the Bucks were able to provide against the Suns. And I mean, Drew Holiday may not have scored offensively an incredible amount of points, but he was 1 rebound shy of a triple double. He had 12 points, he had 11 assists, and he had 9 rebounds, while at the same time hoisting up 4 steals. He did his job, and he played 46 minutes out of 48. So what he couldn't bring to the table in offense, he was able to bring everywhere else. And that is probably exactly what this team needed because Giannis had a little bit extra in the tank tonight. And you can tell with that 50 piece, this is going to go down as one of the best finals performances we've ever seen.
I mean, when you look through the entirety of the series, Giannis comes into the series off of a hyperextended knee from Game 4 in the Eastern Conference Finals matchup against Atlanta. And you and I were both thinking that Giannis was going to be hindered because of his knee going
So he's
into
going to be
this
out.
series. Yeah, like I wasn't expecting Giannis to come back to at least Game 2, possibly Game 3. He comes back in Game 1, drops a modest performance,
20.
20 points, which was his worst offensive output. But I thought overall, I thought he played pretty well coming off of that knee injury. He follows it up with 2 40-point performances, 42 and 41 in Game 2 and then 3. He goes, what was it? He dropped a 26 and 14 in Game 4. He drops 32 in Phoenix in Game 5, and then finishes the series with a 50-point
50.
bomb. I mean, the guy averaged, what, like 35 points a game throughout the entirety of the series? I mean, it's one of the best finals performances that we've seen in this generation. I mean, dominance is the only word that comes to mind in this series. And no matter what Phoenix threw at him, they couldn't stop him. His worst offensive output came in Game 1. And after all the adjustments that Phoenix made to try to slow him down, it didn't matter. I mean, I don't know what else to say. You know, I thought Phoenix started off great in the series, but Giannis just went to a whole new level after losing those first 2 games. And, you know, some games you saw some big performances from Chris Middleton, but for the majority of the series, it was Giannis leading the way. And this is literally just kind of like his crowning achievement on the end of the NBA Finals to put up a 50-point piece like this. This is absolutely wild, and you know, I gotta give a lot of respect to Giannis, man. You know,
Hey, he did it.
yeah,
He signed the loyalty. He proved that he was going to do this. He said he was going to do this, and he brought a championship after 50 years, which is absolutely incredible. And to follow in the footsteps of one of the greatest centers, if not the greatest center in NBA history, who brought the first championship, and arguably one of the better point guards to play this game in Oscar Robertson, to follow suit and do this your own way and bring this championship to Milwaukee is it's a great run. And for those of you that don't know Giannis's story, man, it's really, really, really good story knowing that coming from Greece, not having a dollar in his pocket because he sent everything he made in the NBA in that first year or so to his family back in Greece. We're talking a professional basketball player in his rookie year doesn't even have money for a cab and has to legitimately like hitchhike to practice or to a game actually. And it was just incredible. Like again, for those of you that are unaware, watch it. It's available on YouTube. It's on ESPN. I think on ESPN Plus or something like that. The story is beautiful, and he caps it today. And you know, if I'm being completely honest, he's one of those players you kind of like low key cheer for throughout the entirety of the season because you want to see him do good. You know, like
Yep.
he's just an overall nice individual from what I've seen in terms of both uh, uh, post game press conferences, media shows, like commercial, whatever. Giannis
His
just seems like
interactions with the fans.
yes, he just seems like an overall lovable person. His personality just screams kindness. And again, I don't know him from a hole in the wall, so he could be a complete dick behind closed doors. But he's just that person you want to cheer for. And I'm super happy for him, man. I'm happy for the team as a whole. There are certain players that, on this team that I wanted to see succeed. Drew Holiday, one of them, obviously. I'm super hyped the fact that he was able to capitalize and get out of New Orleans and get over that hump that he was going through. Obviously, Jeff Teague was on that team, a longtime Atlanta Hawk, an NBA veteran who was always getting kind of annihilated by LeBron James in the postseason. And, Justin Jackson, another UNC alumni. He didn't get much playing time, if any at all, but I'm happy that he gets to become an NBA champion. And, I said it before, PJ Tucker, I think that's kind of bittersweet, only because James Harden made those comments a few years back talking about how it wasn't very hard to do what Giannis does and that, James has got to hone in on more skill and more talent. And James ain't got no ring, and James like 32, 33. So I think he's eating his words, and rightfully so, because I don't believe that, you should criticize an NBA player's craft. There's no reason for that. And, James Harden, eat your heart out, kid, because you still ain't got no hardware.
I mean, well said. Now, we got to go from obviously the winning side with Milwaukee to the losing side. Phoenix lost game 6. They lost by 7 points in this game. So, Kev, let me get your thoughts on where it went wrong for Phoenix, not only in this game, but in this series as a whole.
Hey, man, I got 2 words for you. Kendall Jenner. I don't want to hear it.
You're gonna be petty, aren't you?
Bro, I don't want to hear it. The second they went up, I believe whether it was after game 1 or game 2, she publicly put it on the internet and said, if he wins, referencing Devin Booker, that's her boyfriend, that's her dating person, whatever, situational relationship, I don't give a shit. If you win the NBA Finals, I'm going to give you a baby. If that's not a curse in and of itself, I don't know what is, because everybody knows every single athlete the Kardashians have touched, their careers have plummeted. And I mean plummeted. We're talking Chris Humphries was up and coming in New Jersey when they were in the New Jersey Nets. We're talking about Reggie Bush, talking about Miles Austin. I mean, Ben Simmons, for God's sakes, Blake Griffin, like every single person these women have touched in their lives, the men that they've destroyed, whether mentally or physically, I don't know, have just been abysmal. And the Suns were up 2-0, and then the comment was made, and then the Suns lose 4 in a row. In that period, Devin scored 40 twice, yes, but he also had 2 bad games in that as well, including tonight going 8 of 22 from the field. He could not get it going. 0 of 7 from the three-point line. If I'm looking at it realistically, I'm just goofing, guys. I know that that's not a real thing. I'm going to say defensively, man. From games 3 on, they could not guard. And whether or not it was being able to guard Giannis, which is pretty much an impossible task for most teams. But, dude, there were certain plays. I mean, like, I know you know the play I'm talking about in the third quarter where Giannis gets the ball at the top of the key, and they're worried about their getting in their zone position. And Giannis gets a free lane to the basket and kind of reverse layups around DeAndre Ayton with a full head of steam. Like, you can't do that in the finals. The man is already hot. You're going to give him a free layup? Like, the Suns just did not seem to have any defensive urgency whatsoever, and their inability to score the basketball as a unit, man. This is the first time they've been held under 100 points and in terms of the finals, and 24% from the three-point line, absolutely disgusting. 44% from the field. their star players outside of Chris Paul, or should I say their best players outside of Chris Paul, just could not perform. Like I said, Devin Booker had a bad night. DeAndre Ayton, 4 of 12. Jay Crowder, 4 of 11. And so on and so on and so on. Cameron Johnson off the bench. Unfortunately, one UNC member got a championship, the other one didn't, but he was 1 of 5. So when you're putting up shots at that volume and you're not knocking anything down to get a momentum, to kind of get a rhythm going, like I said earlier, it's damn near impossible. And, as a unit, it just did not seem like the Suns had enough in the tank to kind of will themselves to win. And who knows, if maybe Devin hits a few shots, this game might go another way. But the turnover aspect doesn't help either. Devin had 6 turnovers and Chris had 3. So point guard or not, it did not seem like it was going for him. Chris did everything he could. He had 26 points. He had 5 assists. He also had 5 fouls. Shit, I didn't even realize that. But you can't say it was Chris's fault. You can't say he didn't do his job in the finals. I believe he had maybe one bad game where he didn't really do very well. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, I think he performed incredible for not only his age, but in the position he was put in, being one of the only veterans on this team that has playoff experience outside of Jay Crowder. And I don't know if Phoenix is going to be back. There are a lot of moving pieces out here. You got to re-sign DeAndre Ayton to a long-term deal. Devin Booker's going to want another extension. Chris Paul obviously is probably going to opt out and want a new deal. And there are people on this bench that we don't know if they're going to come back. Cameron Payne, is that going to be a one-year floozy? Jay Crowder, I believe he signed a 2 or 3 year deal. Did they package him and trade for somebody else this offseason? Mikal Bridges is also going to be up for a contract extension as well. So Phoenix has got their hands full. James Jones and those boys in the front office got to figure out what it is they're going to do, if they're going to keep this nucleus of players together and see if they can make another run at it. But if I'm being honest, I think this really was the shot to do it, and they kind of dropped the ball, man. To lose 4 in a row in the NBA Finals after going up 2-0 is Dallas-esque. And that pains me to say that after we went up 2-0 against the Miami Heat in 2006, and then we just lost 4-0. It's a painful feeling to know you were 2 wins away from a championship and you were not able to scrimmage up 1 after that. So, kudos to the Suns for the run that they went on, for the improbable historical run that they did this season. And, we'll end up seeing what happens next year. But it's unfortunate for them to fall short.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Phoenix really struggled with altogether was them dealing with Milwaukee's length, especially with Giannis and Brook Lopez. The one thing that we had mentioned just a couple days ago was the fact that Phoenix was struggling to rebound the ball as well as Milwaukee was. And tonight proved no different. I mean, I'm going to pull up the box score just so that you guys can see. Milwaukee had 53 rebounds as a team. Phoenix had 37. I mean, they got crushed on the boards once again. This had been a consistent theme throughout the entirety of the series. This is not just a one-game one-off. This had been happening multiple times throughout the series. And it really kind of goes to show that outside of DeAndre Ayton, Phoenix didn't have anybody that they could really rely upon to get favorable matchups against Giannis and Brook Lopez. It's just when you have 2 guys who are either 7 feet or very close to 7 feet, and really all you have is DeAndre Ayton, and DeAndre Ayton's not even 7 feet. I think DeAndre Ayton's only like 6'10".
6'11" or something?
Yeah, so, and I really kind of think back to when Dario Saric got hurt in Game 1. It really kind of threw Phoenix in a bind. It really made them thin at that 5 spot just because it left Frank Kaminsky in a situation where he had to step up. And, I mean, he actually played not too bad tonight. He actually had, I would say, a serviceable game tonight. Up until this point, he really didn't play that much. But at least it was a body to kind of check Giannis and Brook Lopez at a certain point in the game. But by and large, I just didn't think that Chris Paul stepped up to the way that I thought he should have. I thought he had some overall good performances here and there. But the one thing that really kind of stood out to me about Chris Paul is his turnovers. He had some really bad turnovers, not just in one game, but throughout the entirety of the series for the most part. And when I look at Devin Booker had what I would consider a really good series altogether. But in Game 6, this is, you have to force a game seven if you're Phoenix. And Devin just did not play well tonight. He couldn't get into an offensive rhythm whatsoever. It's like you mentioned, 8 of 22 from the field. This was probably his worst game outside of game three when Phoenix got run off the court. And I think Devin Booker only scored like 10 or 11 points in that game. So, yeah, I really want to focus, though, on just the rebounding portion of Phoenix here, just because I just think that by and large, they just couldn't contend with Milwaukee's length. And I think Milwaukee made a very good adjustment to make sure that they were feeding Giannis and that they kept Brook Lopez in a decent rotation. Because Brook Lopez, throughout this series, even though they didn't put up like a 20, 25 point performance, he was consistently getting 10 to 15 points. And Phoenix had to respect that. So it did open up some lanes for Giannis to exploit. And Giannis was just consistent the entire time. And Phoenix really didn't have anybody to check him outside of DeAndre Ayton. I mean, there were times where Giannis was getting guarded by Jay Crowder and Mikal Bridges. That's a walk in the park for Giannis when it comes to a one-on-one matchup. And, I thought Phoenix was going to make better adjustments tonight because Giannis had a really good game five, and then he follows it up with a 50-point piece in a closeout game. So, I just look at the matchups that Milwaukee had. They had the advantage at the 4 and 5 spot, and they exploited it. And good on Mike Budenholzer for seeing that weakness in Phoenix's roster and exploiting it to the best of their abilities. And they executed with flying colors in that regard. So, all in all, though, I thought Phoenix had a fantastic year. Obviously, it's a major disappointment that they didn't win the finals. And it really does sting to know that they were 2 games away after taking a 2-0 series lead to start the finals. So they're going to have to do some soul searching. They're going to have to kind of come together as a group. And look, they have Monty Williams as their head coach. That guy is one of the best coaches in the league. He's one of the best role models that you could have as far as an NBA coach goes. And I definitely expect Monty Williams to ensure that these guys stick together as they transition through this pretty difficult time. I imagine they'll take some time off, reassess some things, and then try to get back to it for next season. But, it's unfortunate that the season had to come to an end for Phoenix in this way.
Yeah, overall, it was a great finals. I mean, neither of us could have predicted a good of a finals as it was. Again, just to reiterate, Kyle and I did predict Phoenix to win this either in 5 or 6. And this went the complete opposite way. So, I mean, kudos to the Bucks. They did everything they needed to do. Injuries aside, in terms of, what happened in the NBA this postseason, I know I made a statement on it before, but they still had to overcome those injuries of their own. They still had to win the games that the other players were not a part of, and they still had to continue on and successfully overcome what the Phoenix Suns brought to the table, and they did that. So I think that there is no asterisk, there is no what if. If that were the case, a lot of NBA championships would have asterisks upon them as well. And, I think that Giannis went about this the right way. I'm going to say it, the loyalty thing really does not exist in this NBA. Like it used to back when Dirk and Kobe Bryant were drafted. So for Giannis to choose to stay in Milwaukee, take not only the increase in pay, but to give them an opportunity to prove to him that they were going to bring a championship in. Drew Holiday, acquisition of PJ Tucker late in midseason, that really made that big of a difference for them. And I need people to understand that winning a championship in any sport is no easy feat. And what Milwaukee did this season was nothing short of special. But, Phoenix had to deal with a lot of things on their own as well, especially with Chris Paul early on in the postseason, having the protocol issues and then the shoulder injury right before that. And then obviously, Sarge going down. And I know that we touched on it a multitude of times, but I think that really was the Achilles heel to Phoenix being unable to rebound the basketball, like Kyle said. Frank the GOAT Kaminsky came in and he was 3 or 4 from the field, but what are you going to do when he's technically really a stretch 4? He's not really a true center, and his inability to guard Giannis, like a number of other people cannot, was critical as well. So, again, overall, great finals. Happy it went the way that it did. Happy for Giannis. Can Milwaukee repeat? Who knows? Can Phoenix make another run? I personally doubt that, but at the same time, I would not be surprised if Chris Paul wants to reload and do it again because Devin is a great running mate and he's only going to get better. He is 24. I won't tolerate any Devin Booker slander here. Obviously, there were some comparisons to Kobe Bryant. Nobody said he was the second coming of Kobe. Nobody said he was anywhere as good as Kobe was at 24. Obviously not. Kobe already had 3 championships at 24. So, you really sit there and you're like, well, Devin couldn't do it. No, the Phoenix Suns couldn't do it. Devin gave it his all. He had a bad night, but I mean, like, what are you going to do when no one else is hitting shots either? It's not like Devin was anchoring them down. So, uh, I don't know, man. I'm excited to see what happens this offseason. I'm very curious. I do want to make a quick point about Chris Paul leaving and not saying goodbye to anybody or, like, congratulations. I hate athletes that do that. LeBron James is known for doing that in multiple finals. Multiple basketball players are known for that. And I wanted to touch on that only because it shows weakness and it shows disrespect. Because if you were the one hoisting up the trophy or celebrating under the confetti, you would want people to come and congratulate you. And for you to kind of walk away without saying anything at all, I think it's just stupid. I think it's classless. And, it only shows bad things on Chris Paul's resume. I mean, Devin is 24 years old and he's sitting there waiting to say bye to people or not waiting to say bye. I keep saying that like we're at a birthday party. He's waiting to congratulate some people on the team. Obviously, Giannis was having an emotional moment with his family, so he was unable to speak with him. But overall, I just wanted to touch on that, and I wanted to get your thoughts. Like, what do you think should be the method, or should I say, the minimum a player should do in Chris Paul's position?
Well, here's what I'll say, and this is something that I like that hockey does. In hockey, at the end of the series, there's always a handshake. Meaning you have players, one team will form one line and the other team will form another line. And, they'll move down the line and everybody gets a handshake. And I've always thought that to be a respectful way to end the series, despite whatever went on throughout the series. And trust me, like, it doesn't matter what sport it is, whether it's basketball, hockey, any sport that you can name. There's going to be moments where things get contentious, things get very hot. But when the series comes to an end, and you have a winner and a loser, I always think it's a very respectful form of tradition to shake the opponent's hand, whether it's in victory or defeat. And I wish that's something that the NBA would try to, enforce. But, the way that they do things currently, they just allow the players to, congratulate one another, after the game is over. Or if they want to do it post game, after everybody's gone to the locker room, they can do that. But, by and large, it's just kind of like random interactions that take place on the course. On the court. So, it is what it is in that extent. It's like you said, I agree with your statement about Chris Paul. Just doesn't look good on his part. Listen, I know it's very difficult to the fact that he lost his first NBA Finals at the age of 36. Trust me, that he's been in the league for almost damn near coming up on 20 years at this point. So I imagine he's very upset and he's disappointed with the result, but still, you got to be the bigger man in that situation, and you got to show at least some sort of respect to the Milwaukee Bucks for winning the NBA Finals this year. So, granted, I didn't see Chris Paul leave the court. Obviously, you did. I was kind of focused on, getting ready for our stream. But if that's the case, I think Chris Paul, being one of the focal leaders of the NBA, you got to set a better example than that. But, by and large, I'm glad that Devin was able to, interact with some of the Milwaukee Bucks players as they were celebrating their first championship. So, it's just I wish that the NBA would kind of set some sort of tradition where, there's some actual form of, interaction where everybody, gets to acknowledge one another before they end up leaving the court. That's just me, though.
Yeah. No. I mean, I would love to see it too. And I can't say anything because Dirk did it when the Mavs won the championship. Like Dirk, as time expired, if people are familiar with Miami, you kind of had to like hop over the scorers table and like kind of like go around into their little tunnel in between the seats.
Mm-hmm.
But Dirk had overcome a lot of things in that season. I'm not justifying it. I'm saying when the best players on the team are mocking you and then criticizing your durability and your willingness to play, with Dirk coming down with flu-like symptoms right before Game 5 or 4, whichever one that was, and kind of the trash talking that went on between that entire final series. I feel like Dirk rightfully kind of left and said, you know what, like I got the last laugh. I got to hoist the trophy on your home court. But again, that doesn't justify, you should shake the other players' hands, at least the coach, something of that magnitude to show respect, because they had to go through a similar journey to reach the goal of getting a championship. You just were able to outlast them, or the better team happened to win. So, yeah, no, Chris Paul being the 36, 37-year-old veteran that he is, the leader of this team on the court, and, like you said, a representative in the NBA, MBPA, whatever position he has, the president of that role.
Players
It
Association.
it just didn't look good on him. And granted, he could have said something in between, like as the clock expired, and maybe tapped Giannis on the butt. But when you see other players and coaching staff members waiting while the other team celebrates, that just shows, to me, respect, and that shows a certain level of what's the word I'm looking for? Of course, I'm going blank.
I would just say respect.
Yeah,
It just shows
we'll leave it
a
at, we'll
decent
leave it
form
at
of respect.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. Dude, it rubs me the wrong way, man. You want to be a sore loser and then talk smack before the game, or talk smack throughout the series. That's not a good look, man. It's one thing if a kid says it. It's another thing when you like the leader or like the oldest person on both sides of the court and you just dip. It just looks terrible.
I can understand that. I do. And trust me, I'm like the biggest like Tom Brady fan, but when they lost to the Eagles, I think it was Super Bowl 52. I think he left the field without shaking anybody's hand. So,
Pretty sure he did that the perfect season too, didn't he?
I don't remember that one. Dude, that was almost 15 years ago at this point. So it's my memory's a little bit thin on that one. So, but
why are we so old, bro? 50.
Listen. I was devastated after that one. I don't want to get into that one, but 6 Super Bowls. I'm not complaining. But before we end up wrapping this up, I do want to focus on Giannis. Giannis was clearly the most important player on the Bucks throughout the entirety of the series. He wins an NBA Finals MVP to boot after a 50-point performance in Game 6 to seal it for the Bucks. Now, Kev, what does this Finals win for Giannis have on his career at this point? He's 26 years old, coming off of his first championship. Would you go as far as to say that Giannis is the best player in basketball right now?
No. You won an NBA championship. You had a good team behind you. You had a 50-point freaking masterpiece, like we've said 100 times on this segment, to close it out. We all know he's not the best basketball player on the planet. Like that's solidified between 2 or 3 players, whether that's a discussion, a debate, argument, or whatever. He is not there solely because of his inability to shoot. Is he one of the best players in the league by far? Yes. Is he an incredible player on all sides of the bat? Yes. But he's not the best player in the league right now. He needs to develop that jump shot a lot more consistently. And I know we harp on it for Ben Simmons, but Giannis is millions of miles ahead of that young man in his own regard as well. But Giannis did join an exclusive club tonight by not only achieving an MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year, but also winning an NBA championship and then winning the NBA Finals MVP. Only 2 other players have achieved those 3 things under the age of 26 or by the age of 26, and that's Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon. That is absolutely – no, it's not under 26 because Jordan didn't win his first ring until he was like 8 years in. So, no, that's probably an incorrect stat. I'm probably forgetting something.
It doesn't matter, but I mean,
yeah, maybe not the age thing, but only 2 other players have all of those things together, and that was Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon, and now it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. Guys, I apologize. I have a little bit of brain farts as it is getting a little late on this side, but he's definitely a top 5 player in the league. But we have to reserve those two spots for, in my personal opinion, KD, LeBron James, Steph Curry, like players like that just do everything that they can for their teams and just are dynamic game changers.
Well, Giannis is different. Giannis's damage is done down low in the paint. The way that I look at it in not just this series, but throughout the entirety of the playoff for Milwaukee here, Giannis was clearly the focal point of the team. And really at no point throughout the playoffs was he ever hindered by his own game, meaning like he would have maybe some down games, but I still think by and large he was still a dominant piece to contend with. And he transitioned into the finals. This was by far his best series. I mean, the guy averaged 35 points. I would almost think he almost averaged 14 rebounds. I don't know what his total was tonight. I don't remember off the top of my head. But even so, when you have somebody who's getting 35 points a game, at least getting 12 to 13 rebounds a game, and then adding maybe like 5 or 6 on top of that as a big man, the only center that we've seen that could really do something like that is maybe like, I don't know, like Wilt Chamberlain or Shaq. Giannis is in that type of company at this point. When it comes to big men, as far as throughout the history of the NBA. I'm not going to go as far to say that he's the best player in the league. I think this definitely certifies him as a top 3 player, though. I think it's disrespectful to say that he's not in the top 3 after the run that he just had in this finals. This is one of the, it's like I said earlier, this is one of those finals performances where he got markedly better throughout the series. He finishes the series off with a 50-point performance. Damn near scored half of the team's points in the process, mind you. And that was basically with Phoenix throwing the kitchen sink at him, and they had no answer for him. So, when I look at the overall impact of where Giannis is currently, sky's the limit with him. I don't even know if I would go to far as to say that, he's the best player in the league. But if you wanted to make an argument, I think you'd have an outside shot of making it. But as far as I'm concerned, he's top 3 in my book after this performance. So I got to give respect to that. I think anybody to say that he's not a top 5 player in this league, they're absolutely wild. And Giannis was the man.
They probably don't know basketball if they're saying he's not top 5.
But Giannis was the man. There's no other way for me to say it. And, listen, he's 26. He's got a long way to go still. So don't be surprised if we see Giannis in a similar situation like he was in this series within the next couple of years or so. I think as long as Milwaukee's able to keep this core of Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Jrue Holiday together, I think that they will have the opportunity to possibly compete for maybe 1 or 2 more finals appearances down the road. So I don't know if it's going to I don't know if it's going to be a repeat, but I'm not going to just say that this is going to be just a one-off thing for Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee, as long as they could stay healthy for the long term and keep that core together, like I mentioned, they can definitely compete for another championship within the next couple of years. I could definitely see that happening.
Well, we know for a fact already that the 3 of them are locked down for some time. Jrue Holiday signed a 4-year extension. Chris Middleton's on an extension. Giannis just signed his super extension. So the 3 of them are for sure going to be locked up together for some time. It's a matter of, to me at least, keeping those other pieces that made a difference. PJ Tucker may not score a whole lot of points, but that man sure does make a difference on the grit and defensive side of the basketball. Brook Lopez was a big focal point, the big man in the middle. Bobby Portis, and a litany of other players that made contributions throughout the season for Milwaukee. So I don't know. I don't even know if I would go as far as say they would compete in another NBA Finals. I feel like it would be disrespectful to not say it. But again, Brooklyn will come back depending on what happens this offseason with the Kyrie trade rumors. They're very small. They're very minute. But, things could pick up now that we're getting towards the offseason, or now that we're in the offseason. And, the Atlanta Hawks are here to stay. And the Philadelphia 76ers are figuring things out on their end as well. I think the Eastern Conference is finally at a point now where you can't say there is a definitive favorite outside of the Brooklyn Nets solely because of the 3-headed monster that they have. So, I would like to see them compete for another one just because I like Giannis. I would love to see them win another one if it meant that, the Mavs were already out of it because every year I want us to win. And if it meant him having to knock off LeBron James in the finals for another L on his resume, I wouldn't mind that either. But, we will see what happens as his career develops. Again, like you said, they are relatively young. I think PJ Tucker's probably the oldest person on that team, maybe.
Yeah. PJ Tucker's been in the league for a long time.
He like 34, 35 or something like that. And then
Yeah,
Drew
but
Holiday's probably 30.
yeah, but the core is solid. I think Chris Middleton is 29. I know Giannis is 26, and Drew's probably in his late 20s. Late 20s,
No,
maybe
I think he's
30.
like 30.
Maybe
Man,
30.
act like we don't got the damn internet in front of us.
Yeah, you can pull it up real quick. I say
Drew
30. I say
Holiday
like 29 or
age.
30.
Drew Holiday age. Stupid Google. 31. I knew it. There's no
Okay.
way.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been in the league like 10 years almost. He got drafted like what in Philly in like 2010,
Yeah, somewhere around there.
9,
Probably.
something. Yeah, like I remember when he was nasty with Lou Williams, Andre Iguodala. Like them boys was nice.
Yeah, and then he had a nice little stint when he was with the Pelicans for a couple of years.
Yeah, he really transitioned into that perfect two-way player, and he really solidified himself as a prime defender. But again, congratulations to the Milwaukee Bucks on the 2021 NBA championship that they've just attained or achieved. To the city of Milwaukee, they deserved it. They've obviously been on a drought outside of the Green Bay Packers winning a Super Bowl about 12 years ago. This was good for them. I think it shows a lot of integrity for Giannis' stance in his career. And, who's to say they can't do it again? I know I just said that, but anything is possible in the NBA, man. It's crazy. And I think that showed
Mm-hmm.
in magnitude, whatever word I'm trying to use right now, I'm just kind of diarrhea mouth at the moment. So I'm just, and then Kyle, wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic finals. I thought the playoffs, by and large, were very fun to watch. Obviously, the injuries definitely hindered the playoffs to a certain extent, just because there were some big injuries that took place to some pretty big superstars throughout the playoffs this year. But by and large, when it comes to the finals, I'm gonna tell you this: this was a great finals. Obviously, I would have loved the fact that if this would have went to a game 7, but the fact that Milwaukee was able to come back from a 2-0 deficit, they pull off 4 straight wins, and Milwaukee celebrates their first championship in 50 years when it comes to the Bucks. You got to give a lot of credit and a lot of respect for Milwaukee to dig deep. They found some resiliency and they executed when they needed to. So, the 2021 season has officially come to an end, and we'll obviously transition into the NBA offseason. I imagine it is going to be quite entertaining because the NBA offseason has always full of surprises, so we'll definitely stay tuned out for that. But, just before we wrap this up, we have to give one big shout out to the Milwaukee Bucks for being your 2021 NBA champions. So, if you guys watch the live stream, if you guys took the time to watch, Kevin and I do what we do here, we appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, hit the subscribe button below. Any sort of support that we can get for the channel, Kevin and I definitely appreciate it. Don't be surprised if we do some more live streams similar to this in the near future. We'll obviously kind of be focusing our attention on the NFL since that is coming up very soon. And, hopefully you guys just enjoy the content that we put out for you guys. So, Kev, do you have anything else before we wrap it up?
No, sir. That's everything. Big kudos to the Bucks once again. Shout out to Giannis doing his thing. 50-point performance was one for the history books. I know I'll remember it forever.
Yeah, I mean, what a way to walk it off. 50 points, win an NBA championship. You got to be pretty proud of that. So, thank you guys for tuning in once again, and we will see you guys later.